Hi, everyone. Welcome. Today's session is about something a lot of research and UX teams struggle with, which is how to turn research findings into something stakeholders can actually use to make decisions. Dave will walk through how his team used Useberry during Wickey's expansion into the US market to uncover key findings about pricing, positioning, and customer expectations. And more importantly, how those findings were framed and communicated in a way that helped business, um, you know, drive the action. Dave Powell is a Crow specialist at Wiki, where he focuses on research and experimentation to help improve conversion and shape product decisions. He's currently working on a US proof of concept, refining product market fit, and building a scalable foundation for growth. So what we'll see today, Dave will walk us through the challenge behind Wiki's US launch, the research and insights gathered through Useberry, and how those findings were prioritized and turned into clear actions. He'll also cover how those insights were communicated and the impact it had on the business. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Dave. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for the glowing introduction. I'm flattered.
Great to have you.
Yeah, thanks. So, I believe you're going to bring up the slides. Awesome. Yeah, de-risking a US market entry. A little bit about Wiki. We are European leaders in selling backyard playsets, swings for children ages about 3 to 12. We've been in the market for around about 25 years. And yeah, they make the products on site in Germany. We've got offices in the Netherlands, and we operate all over Europe, and we wished to get into the US market. We've been there just over a year. So thanks for joining, first and foremost, everybody that's out there that will be watching this presentation. And I want to walk you through how we use a research, not just to gather insights, but to make confident business decisions before launching into the US market. Those business decisions can, have a massive impact. So what we want to do is we want to turn this into this. That's the goal, the end goal that everybody at Wiki wants. So we want to find the right fit for families in the US for our playsets. At the time, this wasn't just a research project for us. We were actively trying to understand if there was a genuine opportunity for Wiki in the US market. And with physical products, especially large products, mistakes become expensive very quickly. You're not changing images on a website. You're committing to inventory, logistics, warehousing, customer support, assembly expectations. So the stakes are naturally much higher. But let's start with the problem. The business isn't asking what we learned with research. That's sometimes how we think with researchers. They're asking, what should we do next? I think researchers sometimes fall into the trap of wanting to show everything. Does that sound familiar? Every quote, every graph, every insight. But stakeholders don't really consume information like that. They're trying to reduce uncertainty. They're trying to answer, what's the safest smart move? For Wiki, we have massive costs, and it's not a low ticket item. It's a real investment. It's essential we get it right. The business has to know with as much certainty as possible, there's market demand for product X, Y, Z. Even then, we know with research, it's only a cohort that will hopefully scale. So our launch challenge, we were entering a completely new market with physical products, big physical products. That means inventory, logistics, price and asset creation, as I've mentioned, and messaging. It all becomes very expensive very quickly. So learning as much upfront as we can to ensure efficiency in launching new products. And there's one other layer to this, because the US market behaves differently. Different backyard sizes, different pricing expectations, different aesthetics, different expectations around self-build. Even expectations around the wood color for our playsets changed. So we couldn't just assume, well, this works in Europe, therefore it'll work in the US. That's dangerous thinking. The best thing to do is to go back to the drawing board and figure out what we need to learn. We narrowed down the scope of our research project down to three things. What should we launch? What should we charge? And what should we lead with in our messaging? We took a look at a cross-section of products in the US market, competitors, what products were in certain price band categories, and what product had great review scores. We then cross-referenced that with Wickey's European inventory. That gave us a list of what we called the playset heroes. Keeping it simple with three things to uncover, that made the goal much more achievable and therefore much more simple to communicate once we had the results. I think this was one of the biggest improvements we made early on. Instead of trying to learn everything, we aggressively oversimplified the project because complexity kills momentum, especially when multiple stakeholders are involved. So our research workflow, we used Useberry to simulate buying behavior rather than just asking opinions. This is the framework we used to capture the three main points from our chalkboard in the previous slide, all helping us to get clean, clear, and decisive insights based on what we'll do once we have the data. One thing we wanted to avoid was hypothetical answers. People are very good at saying what they think they'd buy, but behavior changes once the trade-offs appear. That's why we intentionally structured the flow almost like a tournament, narrowing choices down gradually, introducing friction gradually, introducing price gradually. Because that starts to resemble real customer decision making. Let me show you a rough idea of how the research was set up to help us capture the three main drivers of decision making. So, feature appeal versus reality. Capturing how people feel about a product and its features before prices can tell you a lot about a product. Some products look amazing until people see the actual cost. Here you can see two blue bags. I'm guessing it looks quite familiar to everybody that's seen this blue bag before. But once we show the prices, yeah, this was probably the first strong aha moment for us in the research, because before pricing appeared, some products absolutely dominated. And honestly, at that stage, you start thinking, okay, we've found a winner. But then price enters and the entire ranking changed. So here is a little illustration of our product, of our setup, so you can get an idea of what the Playset Heroes tournament look like. It's the framework that enables us to extract those three simple things that we want to know. People are asked to pick a budget range, then they enter this flow. So you can see the dollar sign, it's more and more. So you're either in one flow or the other. In our case, it was 8 play sets per bracket, but to keep things visually simple, there's only 4 here per price band. People then narrowing down to a choice of 2, a final choice. It's not illustrated because we're just trying to keep it simple here. Then how they felt about what price the product is worth before showing them all the products in that price bracket with the prices. This gave us our core 3 decision pillars. Price pull. Price pull showed us whether the price strengthened demand or weakened it. Did the product gain favour because of its price or lose favour? This became one of the most commercially useful metrics in the entire project, because suddenly we weren't just measuring preference, we were measuring perceived value. And those are very different things. The goal wasn't finding the perfect price, it was understanding where demand starts dropping off. And for that you can use the price sensitivity meter. We know that when we discount, we know how much to discount, and adversely, what to set our baseline prices to. We want to send the right message, high quality, but still affordable, and seen as value for money, while ensuring to keep a healthy profit margin. This becomes useful beyond launch. Now, because you start understanding where discount feels healthy, where pricing starts creating friction, and where premium positioning still feels believable. And that's useful for merchandising, promotions, or even Black Friday planning later on. So how about these features? This is what parents actually wanted. The research showed monkey bars, swings, climbing, and slides consistently outperformed visual styling. This exploratory data was captured in Useberry as part of some closing questions, open text fields that we later used AI to tell us which features were mentioned the most. This was then very easy to report on in a clear visual format. This gave us our messaging angle. What I found interesting here is parents weren't really buying a product, they were buying an outcome. Movement, energy, kids playing outside longer. That's consistently what came through. But all these insights are great. But what about making them actionable? The meat of the presentation. Yeah, I think we've all seen how these research projects can go. We stopped presenting research as information and we started presenting it as decisions. These products with these features at this price presented this way, clear and simple, keeping product price tiers in place. This was probably the biggest learning for me personally. The quality of research is important, but the quality of communication is what determines whether anything actually happens. And I realised stakeholders don't want, here are 47 findings. They want, what should we do? So every section of the report started becoming recommendation-led, decision-led, action-led. So here's an idea on how to playfully present data. Now, unfortunately, I've had to blur the images because this is the real data, and I don't want the market to see which play sets are performing well. But I think sometimes researchers underestimate how much presentation format affects decision speed. A spreadsheet creates work. Visual hierarchy creates clarity. So we intentionally started designing outputs that felt quick to scan, easy to compare, easy to remember. So how we show data can really affect the way in which it's absorbed. Making it fun yet easily scannable is a good way of lowering cognitive load for stakeholders across any organization. Here we adopted a card game style to bring an element of nostalgia. Beats a spreadsheet any day. Pokemon, anyone? Color coding the data to really draw attention to the metrics that matter. So, what did the impact look like? Now, obviously, research alone doesn't magically create growth. Execution still matters enormously. But what research did give us was confidence that we were solving the right problems first. Once the launch aligned with the research signals, conversion improved significantly and continues to do so. As you can see from the next slide, where we look at one of the products that was ranking well in the data. Our hero product, the Smart Zone, uncovered together with Useberry, by far and away the market fit for our proof of concept. This product wasn't even on our website before we ran our study. And what's especially interesting about this one is this product wasn't even originally part of the launch thinking. So the data kept pointing towards it again and again. So eventually the safest decision became we should listen to this data. But there are additional measurements we can use. This is externally facing. Let's look at internally facing. What you can do here, what I'm showing you, is a print screen of the amount of times the link for this data was shared internally. Try to track these things. Get some applications allow you to see who opened it when, and with your data you could also break it out. If it is in slides, break it out, try to put it in something like Notion, then you can actually link to different sections of it, and it's very easy then to share. It's very easy to find it back. That way you can always refer back to research while in conversation in Slack or Teams or something, things like this. So know your data, link to it, and provide validation when decisions are being made. I've even seen researchers make posters out of key user insights and put them up around the office. It really helps to make some decisions. So, in closing, I have to use playground material. I think the biggest mind shift for me through this project was realizing research becomes far more valuable when it reduces ambiguity, not when it creates more information. So, if stakeholders leave the room feeling, I know what we should do next, then research has done its job. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I loved the visual card example. Great, great inspo for other teams.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's not always possible. It depends on the business that you're in. I mean, it needs to still be kind of relevant. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's the concept that I wanted to share there that really does kind of, yeah, get the story across. I mean, for us, we work in the kids' product, so I think I can get away with kind of Pokemon style kind of thing. Um, but yeah, have fun with it, and it really is important that the data actually tells a story and draws people to what the conclusions of things are. It's not always easy to do, but if you can get buy-in early on, that let's be aggressive in keeping it simple, then do that. That's yeah, for what really helped us. Yeah, to see the success that we're seeing.
Thanks so much, Dave. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We hope this session gave you practical ideas, and I'm sure about this because gave great examples about how to prioritize, communicate, and present research, in a way that helps drive business decisions. Thanks so much.
Thank you.